Third is Suarez. Goodell comes running in. He's under it, makes the catch. Here's the throw to the plate. It's in the air. He is out! Cameron Rick hangs on! Oh, man,
Well, I'm not sure where to begin with this one because there's a lot that has happened in the last week that we have to catch up on. But I guess the main takeaway is that the Phillies are going to look practically the same exact as they did in 2025 and 2026, just without Ranger Suarez and without Nick Castellanos. But other than that, a brutal week. The Phillies were rumored, in on Bo Bichette pretty heavily. They met with him. There was all these predictions by national writers that he was coming here. The Mets miss out on Kyle Tucker and give him an absurd, was it 3 for 126?
Who, the Mets? 3 for
Yeah.
142. Or no, yeah, 126.
126. Okay, because I thought it was 42 a year.
I was thinking of the opt-outs because he
Yeah.
gets $5 million if he opts out.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what it was. Yeah, I forgot about that part. Yeah, and this comes after Kyle Tucker signs a similar deal with the Dodgers. So not exactly the greatest outcomes for the Phillies here. And it seems like guys are valuing these high AV deals with opt-outs, and I think that has a lot to do with the CBA next year and, seeing what kind of season they're going to have and, maybe if this gets corrected and there is no lockout, I know there's opt-out dates with these contracts, so they might not get that far along, but, seeing if something gets done and what the market might look like is kind of why these guys are doing these deals. But for the Phillies who offered Bichette 7 years, $200 million with no opt-outs, I mean, they like to stretch out the years, but it seems like that's not going to benefit them going forward to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Obviously, like Bichette would have been a super nice piece in the middle of the lineup. I'll be honest, I've never been like the biggest Bo Bichette fan, but the minute the rumors started dropping, I think the idea of getting a right-handed hitter who, hit over 300 on fastballs and breaking balls, doesn't strike out a lot at all, like a really good bat to ball guy. Like in the middle of this lineup behind Bryce or in front of Bryce, pairing him with Turner, two of the top 5 guys in hits last year, like that piece to the lineup. Obviously, the defensive question marks exist. They're not going to get solved. Like even the Mets plan to play him at third base. He's going to be a terrible third baseman. But like with the bat, you kind of worry about that whole defensive positioning thing later. I think the offer that we gave him, 7 for 200, is a bad contract. I wouldn't have been like particularly thrilled with the 7 years, but I guess that's kind of the game that the Phillies like to play. Like you said, extending the years, lowering the AAV. There was an article earlier in the offseason talking about the whole thing. It might have actually just been like a few weeks ago, and apparently, like in the whole Bryce thing, they offered him like 20 years when they negotiated with him initially. So, they're big on longevity, no opt-outs, stuff like that. Whereas, the Tucker deal, the Bichette deal, you're seeing stuff where guys value those opt-outs. But it's 6 and 1/2 dozen in the other because the Red Sox wouldn't give Bregman the no opt-out stuff. They wanted opt-outs, and he went to the Cubs, and they didn't opt out. The Bichette whole saga is just like fascinating because looking at it from what we know now, obviously, it really feels like we got played like a fiddle in terms of the whole thing because – there's all these reports that he likes Mattingly. when, the Phillies were obviously signing Mattingly. They just had to wait until his contract with Toronto terminated. But then, we see now that Bichette did basically a 1-year deal for $42 million, which, if you're a player, how do you say no to that when you've had some injuries throughout your career? But then, the week before, there's all these reports where, Bichette likes the idea of putting roots down in Philly and likes the area where all the players live in South. So it's like, I don't understand how reports could come out saying that he, likes the idea of putting his roots down and then basically sign a 1-year deal. And if it's not a 1-year deal, then it's a 2-year deal because
Mhm.
there's an opt out after every single year. So, it just seems like his agent found the perfect team where so many things aligned, um, and they wrote it until they can get as much money out of it as possible. And obviously, I think if Tucker goes to the Mets, Bichette is in Philly. So there were, the right dominoes that had to fall, but it's not like the Mets came out of nowhere. They met with him at the winter meetings. And
Mhm.
I don't, obviously, we're not in the negotiations. We don't know what goes on, but I don't understand how, Dave Dombrowski operates in terms of, the way that he goes about an off season because they said from the start that Schwarber was the main priority. And I get it. He, besides Tucker, was really the second biggest profile free agent in terms of hitters. Yes, Bichette got more money, but it was always in terms of who was going to attract the biggest market, in terms of teams going after him. Schwarber's market was going to be wide.
Mhm.
Um,
It was interesting though. There's a lot of weird teams involved,
yeah, yeah,
like the
for
Reds
sure.
and the Pirates for the hometown part. But yeah,
So they got Schwarber signed, and then they're like, our focus is shifting to JT. Why can't you talk to two free agents at once?
right.
Clearly, if you're offering Bo 7 for 200, one, you could have offered Kyle Tucker some sort of money. The fact that you weren't in those negotiations, I get it, another lefty,
Hmm.
whatever. But Kyle Tucker, you're a big market. Kick the tires at least. But it's if you have the ability to offer a 7-year, $200 million contract, your focus shouldn't be one, that the two guys that you can bring back, and two, you should be able to talk to multiple people at once. It shouldn't wait until, quote, a market collapses at
Yeah.
the end of December for you to get involved with Bichette. Kick the tires at the winter meetings, establish that kind of relationship, because clearly, we see that they have an agreed deal per Bob Nightingale over a Zoom call. Why can't you establish a relationship where you can meet in person, get pen to paper, instead of getting the rug pulled out from underneath you? I just don't understand why they can't handle this offseason a little bit broader than zeroing in on one singular guy at a time.
Yeah. And the past few off seasons, the weird thing has kind of been this selectiveness with where to spend money. Like they gave Yamamoto that insane deal that he didn't take, but then they didn't turn around and invest that money in anything else. They were like, well, it was a special occasion. And it seems like you're kind of getting the same thing here with Bichette, where they're offering someone 7 for 200, but then you can't. And Cody Bellinger's still out there, Framber Valdez is still out there, so I don't know for sure that they won't. But why aren't you just automatically being brought up with those two guys then? Instead, you're just giving JT whatever the hell he wanted the next second. It's just, I don't know. It's bizarre. And I think, the thing with Bichette, I kind of feel similar to you, good player. He wouldn't get me as excited as when Bryce got here, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's a few reasons why I really wanted him. And I think one was that it was going to cause them to have to switch things up. One of Stott and Bone was going to have to get traded. You were going to have to get a new catcher. So all of a sudden, instead of Garcia just replacing Castellanos and that being one move, one new face, and I guess, to an extent Crawford too, we're looking at 4 or 5 new faces in the lineup. If they did something different in left field then too. So that's what excited me, is that was going to force them to switch things up. Maybe they're like, we could trade Bryson Stott and we can go after, Brenton Doyle or Goodman on the Rockies with a package around him, or Joe Adell on the Angels, something like that, where it could have been a bunch of different moves, and sign Carantini then or something. But that's what kind of disappointed me, was that it was just that one move was gonna make them such a different team. And now that they're not doing just one move, it's the entirely same team all over again. And then the second thing, which is why I kind of understand why Tucker and Bichette are taking these opt-out deals with the high AV, in addition to the CBA thing. The batter markets, the next two off seasons, are dog shit. The two of them easily will be the best players available in either of them. From a hitting standpoint, I know there's a lot of good pitchers available in the next two ones, but both of them can make $42 million this year, go back on the market as the for sure number one guy, and secure an 8-year, $300 million deal. And I think that's kind of why these guys did that, because they're looking at these next two off seasons and being like, I could be the crown jewel either of the next two after this. So let me make this shit ton of money. And then maybe I could get that long-term commitment after this. Just because teams are going to be desperate for players when I'm for sure the best player, in this market. So I think that screwed the Phillies. And it's also why I wanted them to move on one of these guys, because I don't know where the hell you're going to find offensive reinforcements in the next 2 years outside of Crawford and Miller, who you're banking on. So that's kind of my spiel on why I wish they got one of those guys.
Yeah, definitely. The classes are very bad. Like right now, say Bo and Tucker both stay with their current teams and they don't opt out. Next offseason, like Jazz is the headliner in terms of batters. And like
then you got to trade to get better offensively. And we know that they don't like to trade from this farm system because it's just not that deep. And two, they're just not very creative on trades. I think they could have done some small things, like, I don't know, like obviously Taylor Ward, that was an overpay, like stuff like that.
Livid that we did not get. I mean, again, seeing what he ended up being traded for, clearly his market wasn't that of the dude from the Nationals, but like the fact that the Nationals were able to trade a lefty reliever with, a few years of control, with a ERA over 4.5 for Harry Ford is like ridiculous that they weren't involved in that in the slightest.
They're just not creative at all. They're not getting creative. It's disappointing. They don't try to acquire young talent. Like the last young position player they've traded for is Marsh in Rodolfo Castro, if you want to count that. Like they have not done anything to supplement the offense with younger pieces externally. It's signing vets or letting Stott and Bohm burn out into the twilight of average careers. Like I don't know. And I just, all these people are talking about motivated Bohm. You're not getting that. We're in like year 4 of motivated Bohm.
Yeah.
And we're in like year 3 of added muscle. The dude's 6'5" and hits 10 home runs a year. Like, and he's 30. It is what it is. And the fact we have to watch this for another year, and I don't know, maybe Aiden Miller forces him out by July and they just cut ties with him or try to trade him to a team in the AL trying to make the playoffs, like the Mariners or something. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like similar to what you said, wanting the shakeup, I think obviously the Mets news like was shocking in terms of, there were no reports. Obviously they had met with them. Now that we know, they had met with them at the winter meeting, so they were involved. And I think the Tucker miss was just the domino for them to really go for it. But like the more frustrating thing to me was as soon as it happened, it was like, well, here comes the JT signing. And
they didn't wait long.
Everyone knew it was coming, and nobody really knew how bad it was going to be. And the fact that it was 45 million with the chance for it to be 60 million with 5 million incentives for a year. I understand you're paying for past production, but this even kind of goes with the Schwarber contract that they gave out this year. Like you pay for past production, yes, you give guys what they deserve, they set the market, all this stuff. But you're giving contracts out for what you expect the guy to do. I'm not paying JT in 2027 based off of what he did in 2021. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. And if you can like look me in the eyes and tell me that you think JT Realmuto is worth, 15 million, let alone the 20 that he could get with incentives, like you are out of your mind. He was, watching the games last year, it felt like he was scorching hot from June through August. Like really good hitter for the summer. And his OPS finished at 700. Like the decline is there. Even when he's going good, the numbers are not good anymore. He's not going to give you home runs. Like sure, he can manage the pitching staff. Victor Caratini's perfectly fine at managing pitching staffs, and he signed for 2 years, $14 million, like an hour after JT. And, the report came out a few days before the signing that outside of the Phillies, somebody said that they hadn't heard any other teams involved in JT. And then Salisbury said that, JT had a backup plan if the Phillies didn't sign him. And then it came out that the Rays were interested in him. So, like, who were we bidding with? That the dude who hasn't produced well at the plate in really 2 years held us hostage for a month because we gave him a 3-year offer and he declined, which is crazy. Or he was just waiting on it. And then he held us hostage waiting on him. And then, the only other team that's been remotely linked to him was the Rays were interested. Like his agent must be.
The Rays sold this offseason. Yeah. I don't understand why they bring him in anyway. His
agent must be like the best. The fact that he milked 15 million with the chance for 20 million. I don't, and same thing with Schwarber. Obviously, I think the Schwarber contract I'm more fine with, I guess. I don't know. Like I don't love 5 years, 150 million.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 different position players that play through age 38 on this team. Now they're all not all going to be at the same exact time. They're going to be, staggered by a couple of years, but you now have 3 guys that will play their age 38 or older season here.
Yeah, so I don't love the Schwarber deal. But my thing is I think Schwarber age is fine, but you're paying him because he had a career year and a walk year. I think he's obviously a great hitter, but he's not going to replicate the production of last year. He's not going to hit as many home runs as he did. He set the record in Major League Baseball for most lefty on left home runs. That, unfortunately, I just don't foresee happening again. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you're paying $30 million for a guy who's position locked. He can't, move. The power should age well, sure, especially in this stadium. But you're kind of handcuffing yourself. So then to do that again with, catchers we normally see if they're at the end of their career with too many innings and JT's caught 1 million innings, they'll move out to first base. The bat profile at first base for JT is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Awful. So, there's really nowhere that you can hide this contract. And, his redeeming factor is how many innings he's caught. And now it's okay, he's caught 200 more innings than everybody in baseball when you look at the last 3 years going back to the World Baseball Classic. And now you expect him to do that into age 37. He's the second highest paid catcher in baseball in terms of AAV. He's not a top 15 catcher, let alone worth the second highest amount of money per year. So, in terms of the news that broke on Friday, that one bothered me more just because, obviously the shakeup didn't happen. But then I just felt like they mailed it in and, caved to a guy who, to me, it seemed like he held them hostage in negotiations for the last month or so, and then you overpaid on top of it. So that, the bonus sucked, but the JT news just made me feel like there's the outlook right now of this roster and what the fan base has towards them is super bleak.
Yeah, and this is their own fault. Have they drafted a catcher in a top 3 round in our lifetimes? Like, when's the last high profile draft catcher that they've acquired? The two, I think Ohabi was a later round pick, maybe like a 5 or 6. They traded him, and then Tait was an international signing, and they traded him. Now Tait would not have been in this equation. He was 18, 19, and was graded as a horrible catcher at the time. He would have needed probably another 4 years in the minors.
He's probably a first baseman.
Yeah, or a DH.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to say that, but it's like they have zero catching depth in the system. They don't acquire catchers through the draft or trade that are young. It's their own fault that we're going to be year 8, 9, and 10 of JT now. So they did it to themselves because this farm system's just bad, and they can't get creative ever to figure something out. And I think when Bichette went elsewhere, they realized they can't make their offense that much better, so they have to double down on the pitching, and no one knows the staff better than JT, and that was probably their thought process. And they thought that, the value that the money they're putting into him will translate to the pitching staff being better, so to them it's worth it. I don't know. I understand maybe Zach Wheeler wanting to, string out the last few years of his contract with JT there. Maybe they think that if Nola is going to get fixed, it has to be with JT there. I don't know, but it's not great on the offensive side of the ball. This is a team that in 2022 was pretty much carried by the offense. In 2023, it was, pitching was a little better, but they also just slugged their way until they didn't. And in 2023, we never really saw the full potential of that offense because there was never Hoskins and Harper in the lineup with everyone together. But since then, they've done nothing to improve the offense. It's been the same guys with a 1-year deal for practically some type of platoon player the last 3 off seasons to play the outfield. And that's been the offensive moves outside of re-signing guys. So I don't know how we can have practically without, trade Hoskins for whichever of these 1-year deals you want, practically the same lineup, the other 8 spots.
Yeah. And if you're saying Hoskins, he's rumored to sign with the Nationals. So it's like, there's just no, that's like, even, I don't know, Bellinger, just for the amount of money that he wants, if you really sign Bellinger, you are like burying yourself in purgatory because he says he's rumored to want 7 years. I don't think Cody Bellinger's remotely close to like a 7-year, $250 million player. So there's really no upgrade out there, like, unless you're like confident that the tweaks.
I think they have to trade for Byron Buxton if they're going to do anything.
I was going to say Bader, but
I don't know if I want Bader back. I think we all know that was a career year, and I don't see it continuing.
At this point, like, one thing that drove me nuts with the JT thing, like, you took your swing on Bo. At that point, save the $15 million. Try and reset your tax thresholds a little bit, or like not.
So that's the frustrating part too about them not kind of getting deeper into these sweepstakes with these big offensive pieces. Is, as I mentioned, these guys were kind of it for the next 3 off seasons. There's not going to be anyone better than them in the next 2, and you have, between Bohm, Garcia, Castellanos, Alvarado, and Walker, $67 million coming off after the year. And I know Luzardo's going to need an extension, and Duran is eventually going to need one too. And then, another 40, whatever Wheeler makes the year after. Like, I think if you were going to make the move, just stomach it for this year, and then you were kind of resetting next year. And especially, when when a new CBA comes out, what they reset the tax penalties and the
Mhm.
thresholds go up, usually like 5 million each, 5 to 7 million each. So that's what's also disappointing is I think you had a chance to do it here because we're kind of getting some financial relief after the year that now what are you going to use it for?
Yeah. Hi, buddy. Yeah, no, it's like, and the one guy that I like don't want to really fault here is Middleton because he's taking a lot of flack online right now with the whole "I want my trophy back" and everyone's like, "Oh, we'll pay for it." Like,
Yeah,
he did. He offered a $200 million contract so that's like $28 million a year, but then over the third threshold, so $56 million a year. Yeah, it's not the Kyle Tucker $60 million a year straight up but like he'd be paying $56 million a year for Bo. So like he's doing that. He paid $15 million last year for 3 months of David Robertson. Like he's opening his checkbook when he deems fit. I wish the front office was a little bit more aggressive, like you're saying. Like, get involved in these negotiations when the outlook of the class in a few years down the road is not good. And
yeah,
like I think part of it now, like we're seeing this offseason, the trend be these low year, high AAV deals. I think part of the reason that the classes are getting so burnt is that these guys are signing the pre-arb extensions, like the Tyler Soderstrom extension, even though it's not big money. Tyler Soderstrom can't hit the market, and Bobby Witt is worth more than $300 million. But 2 years ago, he signed a 10-year, $300 million extension.
Yeah, so, Ronald is worth a lot more than 110 or whatever his deal was.
Who?
Ronald Acuna.
Yes, and like Jackson Merrill is worth
more.
Yeah,
he's 100 million too, I think. Yeah, 100 or something.
So like all these studs that are 24, 25, when they'd be hitting free agent at the age that Bo Bichette is now, they're not doing it because they're getting these pre-arb extensions. So like, yes, the front office isn't doing things, but also like we suck at developing hitters.
Yeah.
Like Alec Bohm is a 6'5" slap hitter that struggles to do that now. And, Bryson Stott's a good player by metrics, but his defense carries a lot of that. He's not the hitter that we hoped he would be, that he's shown flashes to be. Now his second half last year
he's an 8-hole hitter. He runs well, he plays defense well, and every once in a while he'll have a 2-hit game, but that's it.
Yeah. So like I think while our organization has gotten a lot better for sure, we're still swinging and missing on some of the margins. And obviously like not every team has these superstars at not every team has a Bobby Witt that they can do this with. We tried with Scott Kingery. It didn't work. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it happens, but at the same time, like the Dodgers just won back-to-back World Series. They spent $60 million on Kyle Tucker. They're spending $178 this upcoming year between Tucker and Ohtani with the luxury tax, and they have the number one farm system in baseball. So they can go and do these things and make trades. They're
apparently they're drafting pretty well because they're usually drafting 25th or later every year.
This year they're going to be drafting once and then not until the 7th round because they signed. They're the first team in history to sign 2 qualifying offer players, so they lose their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks. I think.
It's crazy. Yeah, we'll see if qualifying offers are still a thing next year, but
they won't miss a beat because that's just what they do as a good organization. Now, it gives them flexibility because they signed Kyle Tucker, and all of a sudden every report this week is that they're aggressively pursuing Freddie Peralta. So it's like they can spend money.
Where's he even going to go?
I don't know. Maybe they go, it's like, oh, well, maybe, Roki was nails for him in the bullpen in the playoffs. Maybe it's their full-time closer. No, a footnote, they also signed Edwin Diaz for $70 million this year. So it's like.
Yeah, and they still have Tanner Scott under contract and someone else. God, The other dude. Begins with a K, doesn't it?
Kopech.
Yeah. No. I'm thinking of something. Forget it. I can't remember.
But they like just have an embarrassment of riches, and I think like I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's the Japanese market helping them. Like maybe we should have just not been on the East Coast, but like they're being aggressive because they function so well as an organization that if they miss on a guy like Tanner Scott, who, stunk for them last year after a big contract and doesn't pitch in the playoffs for them, they could bring up prospects like Emmett Sheehan, who give them decent innings against teams like the Phillies. So it's like they're missing on prospects, but they sign to make up for it. And when they miss on signings, they have these prospects, like, in a sense, come out of nowhere because a lot of the times they're highly ranked prospect. Like Bobby Miller was ranked so high and has been terrible for them. Meanwhile, our high ranked prospects are terrible, and we don't really have guys filling in the gaps for us in the majors. We have guys like Otto Kemp come up and play left field once, and our organization thinks he's like Barry Bonds.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it seems like the Dodgers with these trades, like they've traded for Manny Machado and Mookie Betts, and can you name a single guy in those deals that is still playing?
The Mookie Betts,
Trey Turner. We'll advance that to Trey Turner and Max Scherzer as well. So what the catcher who the Nationals are about to replace is the only meaningful player out of those three trades?
I mean, yeah, the Mookie Betts trade was Alex Verdugo, Carter Wong, and
Downs, right?
Jeter Downs. So it's like three bots that have accounted for absolutely nothing. And teams are just like, yeah, sure. Like, realistically, everyone's like, oh, don't trade with the Rays. No, it's the Dodgers. Don't trade with the Dodgers because they will take your good players and give you guys with
zero regret. I'd love to see. I know two of those guys, Scherzer and Machado, ended up being rentals, but I'd love to see the WAR difference with those four guys they brought in and all those prospects they traded in those trades, because it's not close.
No, it's crazy. So I mean, that turned into a big Dodgers rant, but at the same time, it's like I just think, and it's not to say, like, from McPhail and Clentak, our player development, our drafting and development has taken like a huge step forward.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys that are exciting in the system, but they're not like a lot of the pitchers that we got last year are exciting, but are they like superstar exciting? No, they're like good relief pitchers where we don't have to spend money on a seventh.
They pretty much drafted an entire bullpen last year.
Yeah, so like getting a little like positive, the kid we got in the international free agent signing, Renteria, like he looks
17.
His profile looks like he's projectable to be a stud. But at the same time, it's like, hopefully he pans out because we've been burnt so many times about guys, looking projectable and then just not getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess we're not expecting much the rest of this offseason, but we will see what else happens. Final thing, what did you think about Max Kepler suspension for taking Tren? It's so funny. Do you think he started taking it after that first home run that got robbed, and then they kept getting robbed anyway? Didn't he had like 3 home runs robbed at center field in Citizens Bank Park last year?
Yeah, didn't he? I can remember. Wasn't there one in Texas that got robbed too? Like
I think there was. He had 3 or 4 home runs literally robbed at the wall last year, and I think that's where the Tren thing came from.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's hilarious. Like he's
done. Like he's done.
Oh yeah, no, he's
done.
An injured year into a bad year with the Phillies with a Tren suspension. Like I'd be shocked if we saw him again. But I think right now, like with the way that the last week has gone, that's just make it as funny as possible. Just start like doing things because like I'll be honest. And I was very wary of them last year. I really thought they were going to come back and win the division. And obviously they suck. Like the Braves are.
Yeah, I still think that's a really good team. They just the last 2 years have been maybe the most injured team in baseball,
Yeah.
especially in their rotation and Acuna. Like guys like Michael Harris and Olsen have just taken steps back. So I don't know what to really make of that. But they have Jerks and Profar coming off the suspension this year too, which I think a lot of people forgot about.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the Braves are going to be good this year. We know the Mets kind of an identity change. If you're a pitcher for them, you're either like a career 5 or a top prospect. So I'm not exactly sure what to make of their rotation.
Yeah, they're pitching suspect, but they've been linked to Framber a lot, who is declining a little bit. Questionable guy in terms of the whole thing last year with the cross up, whatever weird bad teammate rumors, but he pitched really well against the Phillies, and he has a pitching profile in terms of heavy curveball and heavy sinker from the left side that destroys us. So, if they get him, I don't think even with Bo, I don't think they're better than the Phillies, but at the same time, so much of the Phillies thing is unknown to me because obviously we assume Castellanos, all the reports he's not going to be on the team. He's still here.
They said that would probably be the case. They're going to take this up until spring training, and if no one takes him, they're just going to release him.
Okay. Well, you don't know what you're going to get from Garcia. Last year we went into the season where Walker wasn't a factor and Luzardo was our number 5. This year, Walker's our number 4 to start the season.
Luzardo's practically the 2 to start the year too. So
yeah, which I'm good with. And you mentioned earlier, yes, the injury concerns are real. Letting Ranger walk, you better give Luzardo an extension. I don't know when it gets done. I hope they negotiate in spring training. If I were him, I probably wouldn't sign because
we've been burned on this so many times.
If he puts up a healthy year, remotely close to what he did last year, I think the contract starts with a 2.
How old is he going to be? 29 after this year?
20.
I think he's 28 now.
I think he'll be 28 he's 28 now. I think he'll be entering next season his 29-year-old season.
Okay. Yes, I mean,
I think
5'1", 30.
I don't know, dude. If he puts up another big year, if his profile is better than Rangers, and Ranger
throws harder, yeah.
I mean, he throws harder. Rangers had just as many, if not more, injury concerns.
Yeah.
Oof. So yeah, I don't know. I'd like it to get.
I'm not too worried about that because they have so much money coming off, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
the long-term outlook for the rotation is actually not that good.
No, this week and it's not even yes, missing out on Bo sucks, just because what you said, the shakeup would have come from it, and I think we were all looking forward to that. But then, Tom, I saw a clip of Thompson today, and he's like, "Yeah, we still have a really good team. 96 wins last year. Schwarber's back. JT's back.
I think we need to remember they went from 102 to 81 at one point.
Yeah. So
with this talking about last year's shit, it's got to stop.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very, very unfortunate that it's January 19th and I feel the way that I do about baseball season, but they did not do enough at all to excite me. And
like I said, there's really nothing they can do the next couple off seasons unless they wanted to sign Tariq Skubal. That's the only thing, and that still isn't fixing this offense. No. So I guess we'll see what happens with Nick Castellanos and alike over the next 4 weeks or so. But not looking super fun once again. But we'll be back to talk about that a different time.